this is Emily. Welcome to my channel. I thought I'd use my overhead today to do a review of this gorgeous deluxe edition illustrated Dracula book and talk about the book itself, do a little flip through, show you the pages, the designed end papers, and talk about this amazing work of Gothic fiction. I will link these two specific versions, which are my favorites, below in the comments from Amazon if you want to go check those out or add it to your wish list. But Dracula is one of my favorite Gothic novels of all time. So Dracula is a novel, of course, by Bram Stoker, published in 1897. It's an epistolary novel. The narrative is related through just diary entries and letters and newspapers. There's no like single protagonist, but Jonathan Harker is kind of a solicitor that the book opens with the character Jonathan Harker taking a business trip to stay at the castle of Transylvania. That is owned by a nobleman called Count Dracula. Harper tends to, make himself comfortable, but then he discovers that Dracula is a vampire, and of course he tries to escape the castle, and everything just kind of goes downhill after that. So Dracula was really written mostly in the 1890s, but Bram Stoker produced over 100 pages of notes for this novel before he put it together, pulling from Transylvanian history and folklore. There are scholars who suggest that the character of Dracula was inspired by historical figures from works like Wallachian and Vlad the Impaler. So there's a lot behind how this book came about. But Dracula was positively received by viewers when it came out originally. And it was originally listed sort of as a book of horror, but in contrast, thinking on it, reviewers who wrote negatively of the novel regarded it as extremely frightening. Comparison to similar other works in Gothic fiction, like The Woman in White, that was written in 1859. So Dracula has been eventually labeled as Gothic fiction, and modern scholars really like to compare this to the Victorian era, as far as a famous piece of work. So I want to show you this beautiful deluxe edition, deluxe illustrated classics, published by Union Square and Company. It's 464 pages, published in November 2021, illustrated by Edward Gorey, and it runs about $28 on Amazon. It's worth every penny. Absolutely amazing. It's so beautiful. So let me first show you the spine. So we have it in stark black with the silver, big, fancy lettering here. This red is velvet. It's literally like a velvet coat, or like you might feel in the inside of a jewelry box, that kind of velvet. We have this amazing kind of silky, it's almost like glued on because it's attached. It's on top of the leather. You can feel the edges of the Dracula's cape here. And in the back, of course, we have a little information about the book. Dracula is the classic vampire novel set in the standard by which all other vampire fiction is measured. And this is true particularly if you think of Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. Many, many references and or ties to the origins of Dracula. Anyway, this deluxe edition takes its text from the first printing. Features art and designs by Edward Gorey, the master of macabre illustration. And you want to see my favorite part? Look at these end pages. Oh my god, it's so awesome. For a classic book collector, you absolutely will love this. It's bloody fantastic. So let me just show you the inside. You get this is like the library inside Dracula's castle. Lots of little things hidden in this picture you can see if you really look close. We have very shiny pages here. Make sure you can see that. So, of course, we have, everything broken down where you can find everything in the appendixes, a list of illustrations. We have a nice introduction written in 1897. Maybe I can read a little bit of that. But anyway, we have the intro. And let me just go to the back here. Oh, here are the appendices. appendixes. Jeez. I'm just going to flip through, kind of show you a little what it looks like on the inside. And you see here it says Jonathan Harker's journal. So Dracula's really done like the character I mentioned, Jonathan Harker, the solicitor, is writing what he sees and discovers in the castle in his journal. Journal and or letters. Letters to Nina Harker and back. So it's a very an interesting style, the way the book is done. It was kind of a new method of writing fiction back in the day. It's kind of novel and fresh, and it's just amazing. If you love gothic fiction or horror and or collectibles, I would recommend this book. Now, there's one other book from this series, Illustrated Classics by Union Square. That is Pride and Prejudice, and I ordered that one. I have not received it yet, and that one is all pink and white and pretty. So there are only 2 books released in this series so far, and I, of course, expect they will be making more. And this is actually my Barnes & Noble Classics Collection paperback. So I'll link this below as well. This one's been seen better days, but I had to replace my original copy from grad school because it was just highlighted to death. So I got a new copy, and but these tend to run, they're on par with the Black Penguin Classics, honestly. I like the covers on the Black Penguin Classics better. Sometimes they're a few dollars cheaper. I do like my Barnes & Noble Classics because I have a ton of them, probably about 50 of them. But I also have Penguin Classics. So these ones are more colorful, so they're not all necessarily black. All of the Barnes & Noble ones are different colors. So anyway, I highly recommend giving Dracula a try. So I think you will like it. Let's see if we have a few pages, or a few paragraphs I can read from chapter 1. Chapter 1, Jonathan Harker's journal, written in shorthand. Date, of course, left Munich, 8:35 on 1st of May, arriving at Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. Budapest seems a wonderful place, from the glimpse which I get of it from the train, and the little I could walk through the streets. I feared to go very far from the station, as we had arrived late and would start as near the correct time as possible. The impression I had was that we were leaving the west and entering the east, the most western of splendid bridges over the Danube, which is here of noble width and depth, took us among the traditions of Turkish rule. We left in pretty good time and came after nightfall to Klausenburg. Here I stopped for the night at the Hotel Royal. I had for dinner, or rather supper, a chicken dome on some way with red pepper, which was very good, but thirsty. I asked the waiter, and he said it was called paprika hende, and that, as it was a national dish, I should be able to get it anywhere along the Carpathians. I found my smattering of German very useful here. Indeed, I don't know how I could have been able to get on with it. So, you know, it's kind of funny if you think about if any of you write in a journal or a diary, like we just slander and quick scribble. And I mean, this is like, who writes that detailed in their diaries? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to see if I can find when the first view of the castle. I mean, I recall on approach to the castle, some leery, suspicious things are seen. We have dogs howling. We have cold, foggy nights, very gothic settings. Suddenly, away on our left, I saw a faint, flickering blue flame. The driver saw it at the same moment. He at once checked the horses and, jumping to the ground, disappeared into the darkness. I did not know what to do, the less as the howling of the wolves grew closer. But while I wondered, the driver suddenly appeared again and without a word took his seat, and we resumed our journey. So we're approaching, and some strange things are happening. Wolves howling again, horses freaking out. I'm trying to think when he sees the first glimpse of the castle. Here we have the Count. Dun, dun. Pretty early on. I stood in silence, for I did not know what to do. Of bell or knocker there was no sign. Through these frowning walls and dark window openings, it was not likely that my voice could penetrate. The time I waited seemed endless, and I felt doubts and fears crowding upon me. What sort of place had I come to among what kind of people? What sort of grim adventure was it that I had embarked? Was this a customary incident in the life of a solicitor's clerk sent out to explain the purchase of a London estate to a foreigner? So again, fairly easy read. It's not one of these super painful classics that are hard to get through. Very easy to read. It is quite engaging. It's very interesting. Reads almost like a suspense. You just have to remember, like, when it was written in the 1890s. I mean, we're talking Victorian England, how this would have been received, how with all the castles and the manors in Europe at the time, and how it would have been viewed differently then, before the onset of things like horror film and cinema, compared to what we have now. So I think that's the most interesting part about Dracula by Bram Stoker. But I think this is the most gorgeous illustrated book by Bram Stoker. I highly recommend it for your collection. It's nice and heavy, as you can hear. It's beautiful. It's a nice showpiece. It's a conversation starter. I will link this below. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and I hope to see you again in another video.